This is called Everything's a Metaphor and Nothing Matters. He says the lock is metaphorical. He says the lock, pressed and closed into the loop of his pants buttonhole, is representative of the guilt that has been weighing down on him. He says the pants sag a little. They are held up barely by a makeshift belt made out of a piece of rope that he found in the back of his father's old station wagon. He walks around like this, kind of funny looking and apologizing for everything to the people he passes in the hallway. I am sorry that I hurt you, he says to somebody. I am sorry that I cheated on you. I am sorry that I killed your head cat. I am sorry that I stepped here where it really looked like you were planning on standing. And he's been doing this for days, and he's been doing this for weeks, and there's something fascinating about it. He seems like a martyr, he seems like a Buddhist monk, he seems like he's enlightened, but the rest of us are worried about, band tryouts and track meets and math grades and getting laid by Jenny McCrary after prom night. But he just seems so much more cognizant of everything than we do. He says, I'm sorry for all the bloodshed, I'm sorry for all the wars and all the death and all the rape, and I'm sorry for how hard this world has tried to fuck you over the years out of your happiness. Even the teachers are impressed by him. Even the football coaches and the geriatric math teacher. They talk about him in the teacher's lounge and they talk to him after class. They tell him that it is not his fault. They tell him that he cannot hold himself responsible for all the horror in the world. He says that he knows that, but he says that someone has to, and that one day the world's going to be a better place and that for everybody, and one day there's going to be free love and free healthcare and world unity. But until that day comes, he is going to wear that lock through his pants, and he's going to pull it down just a little bit. He leaves, and the teachers are left thinking that he is saintly. They are left thinking that he is too good for this goddamn sinful earth, and they are left wishing that they could follow his immaculate shadow. This isn't the first time he has done something grandiose. He's always been grandiose and verbose and all that shit, and he goes so deep. He does this sometimes, or all the time, or enough of the time, that it becomes sort of like his thing. He's like a high-concept, hyper-conceptual, like a romantic comedy about a man who thinks his wife is having an affair on him, so he hires a private investigator to follow her around. But the private investigator is the guy his wife has been fucking, has been having an affair with. But through the professional dealings, the husband and the private investigator fall in love with each other. And so when the wife notices that the husband is acting distant, so she hires private investigator number 2 to follow him around, and then private investigator number 2 notices private investigator number 1 spending time with his client and thinks he might be trying to scalp her, so private investigator number 2 hires private investigator number 3 to follow around private investigator number 1, and then in a moment of slack professionalism, private investigator number 3 tries to intimidate private investigator number 1, and so then private investigator number 1 hires private investigator number 4 to follow around private investigator number 3 to find out why he's been following around private investigator number 1. Then meanwhile, the husband tries to hire private investigator number 5 to investigate why private investigator number 1 never got back to him on who his wife is fucking. So the private investigators keep multiplying and piling up until eventually there are hundreds of private investigators involved, all private investigating each other and their friends, family, and lovers of the original husband and wife couple who started this whole mess in the first place. And then at the end of the movie, they're all at a private investigator convention, and all at once the husband and the wife admit to each other that they've been following each other, and all the private investigators realize they've been following each other and betraying each other and fucking each other, and then there's total silence in the convention center, and then all at once they realize how alone they are. This is the kind of thing that this guy likes to do. This guy with a lock around his buttonhole, all this conceptual shit. He likes these elaborate and extensive gestures that make him seem so deep and so complex. But they're ultimately just these meaningless explorations of how far he can shove himself up his own asshole. The truth is that he hates himself. He hates the things he does. He sells Adderall to his schoolmates. He steals Snickers bars from the gas station, and he has violent sexual intercourse with Jenny McCrary behind the pinball place twice a week. He keeps going around telling people how sorry he is for their lives in the world and everything terrible that has ever happened for him. But he never apologizes for the stuff he's really sorry for. He sells this metaphor, he sells the shit out of it, but despite the attention it brings him, there's still nothing genuine about it. He is not atoning, he's displaying. He is peacocking conceptually through brightly lit corridors, and he's winking at the pretty girls. Thank you.